Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. This is my podcast. Welcome to it. Each and every week, we talk with interesting people about what they do and how they got to that point in life, except for this week. This week, we do not talk to a business owner. We continue the Halloween vibes, the Halloween tradition, if you will, and I sit down with my very good friend Ryan Pervett for the great debate. So every year, not every year, but a few years in the past, me and Ryan usually have a movie centralized podcast. We do this around Halloween time. We pick topics to talk about, kind of go along with the Halloween theme. One year we did our favorite 5 horror movies. One year we did influential horror movies. And then this year we settled on, after a bunch of debating, you'll hear in the episode, this year we settled on the great debate, Halloween versus Scream. Ryan's favorite franchise for the Halloween season is Halloween. Mine is Scream. And, as we were trying to talk back and forth about what this year's episode was going to be, we casually had a side conversation where we were, dishing out why our respective choices were better than the other. And one of us was like, why don't we just make this the podcast? And that's exactly what we did. So this week, me and Ryan sit down and we give our reasonings, we give the evidence, we give the information behind why our choices are better than the other. He picks Halloween, I pick Scream, and we go at it for a couple hours. And it's a great conversation. We get in the weeds. So if you're not a big movie guy, or a movie person rather, sorry, if you're not a big movie person, this one might not be for you. So go back into the phone book and pick yourself another name and click on it and listen to that. But if you do like the spooky season, if you like the holidays, and you want to hear about some good movies, this is the episode for you. Just 2 hours of 2 movie nerds talking about why they love what they love. I love Halloween. Halloween is in full effect. We've been ripping. We've been going to haunted houses. Me and John from Odd Pittsburgh sold out a show at Bottle Rocket on Friday. It was called 3 River Tales of Terror. A whole sold out show that I cannot thank everyone enough for coming to. It was a swell time. We had a whole list of spooky stories and haunted history that we told to all of our ghosts and ghouls in the audience. And I honestly couldn't have had a better time. What more could you want on a Friday the 13th? That was fantastic. And, I just want to say thank you again to everyone who came out. Thanks to Chris at Bottle Rocket. Thanks to all his team up at there. And thanks to John for wanting to, be a part of this. But I don't think that there's that much more that I got to talk about this week. You know what I mean? I don't want to spend too long on this, but we still got some time for the holiday season. If you're ready, go get some Halloween candy. Make sure you got that ready for Halloween night. I got a Halloween party to go to this weekend. I'm going to hit another haunted house this weekend. We really just got some, we're really in the thick of the fall feeling. I'm here. I'm ready to go. Sooner than later, we're going to be right in there to Christmas. There's already Christmas decorations up, and it's crazy. Time's just flying by. But I'm not going to talk your ear off any longer, and I hope you enjoy this episode talking about the Halloween franchise and the Scream franchise and why Scream is the better franchise. So, without further ado, episode 258 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast, the great debate, Halloween versus Scream.
Telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. I'll you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. Let me see that knife. Is this a movie replica?
Yeah.
Like the exact one?
Yeah, like it was molded off of
The original one from the original movie.
not the same kind, not like
Yeah,
the
not like-
actual one, but yeah,
Where do you get this?
some guy I found on Facebook.
He just makes these in his basement.
Yep. Other ones, he does like a whole bunch of stuff. It's not just those, but
I feel like in the movies, I don't remember it being in that big.
it was.
In the first one,
Yeah, just in the first one. They went, I guess, more realistically sized.
yeah. Like, what kind of a knife is this? Is this like? Do you know what this knife would have even been used for regularly? Because it's huge. It's like, I mean, I guess it's a chef knife, but I feel like it's a specialty.
It is a chef knife, but I don't know. I don't cook enough to know what you would cut with that.
I know. Maybe I should ask some of the chefs. This is cool though.
Yeah, it's like a 12-inch blade or something. Like, I don't know what you would cut with that.
What's this run you?
Like a replica like that, probably like $120, I think.
That's not as bad as I thought. This is pretty good. It's light. It looks very real. Like, this is definitely a realistic type of thing. Someone will probably shoot you if you saw you walk around with that. Okay, I'm excited about this. So let me get a bite of this peanut butter cookie. So before we even started recording, I had to drop the dogs off at daycare. But the best part about that is we get to stop at a local bakery right off the South Point exit called Angelina's. I've talked about it enough on here about this being the place that has the best chocolate chip cookies that I've ever had. And I told Ryan we were going to go for a surprise, and we went and we got some cookies. This is the first time I ate their peanut butter cookie. It's good. I'm not usually a peanut butter cookie guy, but that was your preferred?
Yeah.
You like a peanut butter cookie?
I mean, growing up, it was always chocolate chip.
Yeah.
But now, as an adult, I think I'm going to go for peanut butter before chocolate chip. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just burnt out on chocolate chip.
Yeah.
But peanut butter is my preferred. I mean, I still like chocolate chip, but...
Did you used to eat Nutter Butters? I don't remember. Yeah, I feel like I remember that you having Nutter Butters. That was like never something that I liked. But Maddie always had Nutter Butters. You had Nutter Butters. But this peanut butter cookie from Angelina's is good. You know, it's good. Is it the best cookie? Not for me. What do you think about the donut you have on your plate?
Donut's good. Yeah.
Now, what do you think about the peanut butter cookie?
It's good. It's, let me take another bite.
It's not the best though, right? Or, you know, on the scale of peanut butter cookies, like, is it something notable that would stick with you?
No, I mean, it's on par.
Okay.
You
On
know,
par,
with
yeah.
other peanut butter cookies.
Now, I don't know why I think they're chocolate chip cookies, and this is free promo for Angelina's. You know, I spent my hard-earned money there. But their chocolate chip cookies, they're huge. Okay. Yeah, have a bite of one. Like, they are an elite chocolate chip cookie. Like, one that stands out in my mind. Forgive all the mouth eating right now, but, you know, judging these cookies was important for me to do right now. I feel like I've never really gave Angelina's enough shine. And, like, to have someone who's never had it, a neutral party, what do you think about their chocolate chip cookies?
Better than the peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, I would say peanut butter is just equal to every other peanut butter cookie I'd have.
This
But
sticks in your mind, though,
chocolate
right?
chip is better than other chocolate chip cookies for sure. It's
Absolutely
definitely better.
All right, perfect. Now that we've eaten this chocolate chip cookie, nice wholesome breakfast. A donut and 2 cookies of Celsius. The donut is notable.
Yeah.
Not too sweet. Very soft. Good icing. It reminds me of church donuts. After Sunday school or after church, you would go have a little donut, a little chocolate milk, and then go to Sunday school. That's what this donut reminds me of.
I prefer like cake donuts. Because they're a little bit more dense.
Yeah.
But
I like these, though.
this is a good donut. Yeah.
I can't eat all that right now. I'll throw up. Now, it's something to be said. Originally, Ryan chose peanut butter cookies to buy, But as I look at his plate, he had both on there, and he finished the chocolate chip cookie. Peanut butter cookie lies aside, probably to be wasted because it's not the best. But the reason that we're here, the business and count for today, every year. I mean, do we do one every year? I think we might have skipped one.
We skipped 1 year, I think.
So this will be what, the fourth that we do together?
No, I think this is
The third.
I think this is the third.
Yeah, okay. So we did the third, and every Halloween, I try to make these episodes to be like themed somewhat of the Halloween season, the spooky season. And a few of the years since I've been doing this podcast, I've called Ryan in because Ryan is probably the most credible source for movie knowledge and movie fandom that is similar to, I don't know, I feel like our tastes are very similar, but also very different. And you're enough of a close party where we could kind of get in a heated debate where it's not taken personally. So last year, or the first year we did this, we did what? Our top 10 favorites?
Yeah, we did 5 each, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
It was 10 total, 5 each, I think.
Yeah, and like, so it was like of all time frames, you know, just could be throughout whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. So last year
Yep.
was themed of old movies, right? The
Just
traditional.
I think it's just like important movies.
Oh, yeah,
Old
yeah,
and
yeah.
new.
Yeah,
'Cause we
yeah,
did
yeah.
like Rosemary's Baby, but we also did like Hereditary and The Witch and The
Yeah.
Conjuring, just like kind of like important milestone horror movies.
Yeah, yeah. Milestone movies. Okay, and this third one, you know, this was a difficult decision. We were going back and forth on what type of topic we were going to settle on. And like, you know, I thought we had some good stuff in the beginning. You know, what was the original one we were going to do? Sequels?
Yeah, like sequels, like best sequels.
But it's like, you know, that's kind of broad. But then we talked about doing foreign films, which
Yep.
would have been good, but you know, we don't have enough time to watch. Like you'll watch all these, but like I'm not watching 6 different movies in like a short time frame. I just haven't been able to watch all these movies. So we were going back and forth on a topic of what we wanted to do for this year, and I feel like that somehow we came up with, you know, every year we always kind of go back to like what we favorite, like our favorite movies. Yours has always been Halloween, mine has always been Scream, and I don't know how we came up with it this year, but we did. We settled on what's a better, you know, franchise. You know, why is our chosen better than the other?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a good conversation. I feel like that it'll provide enough. You know, we're passionate about what we like. There's reasons behind it. We both have reasons. We both have prepared over the last 20 years of watching these things.
Yeah.
So to open this up, though. I mean, we're in the Halloween season. We were just talking about all this stuff as we're, driving the dogs to daycare. I'm curious to know, you said you already got Halloween. You already got your Halloween stuff out. Everything's ready.
Yep.
When does it usually start to kick in for you?
Probably too early. I would say like like August. And that sucks because it's still 90 degrees out.
I know, that's the worst.
So I'm already into that mood where I want to be wearing a flannel. I want the trees to be changing color. I want to go to a pumpkin patch, but it's like August 6th and it's 90 degrees out.
And it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Today is beautiful. It's like 50 out right now. It's brisk, and it feels like fall. This is like the first weekend where it actually kind of feels like fall. We went to Moundsville last weekend for the haunted house there, and like that was dope, but it was like hot. I was wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And that takes away from the experience.
Sure.
I want to be shivering. I want to be bundled up. I want to be shivering while I'm looking for ghosts. But this feels like the first weekend where it's like, it's chilly out, very nice. I'm going to hit some haunted houses tonight. You're going to hit the pumpkin patch. It really feels like it's happening. It's going to be a whole weekend of fun. Okay. So how do you want to kick off how we're going to, start to argue about what's a better movie series? What did you think about whenever I said that?
So I guess what I thought about, I'm trying to remember how it came about because it just came about naturally. We were just texting and we were texting about Halloween and Scream. And I think you were like, that's because Scream is better. And I was like, it ain't.
Yeah.
And then I was like, we were just like, this would be a good thing to talk about. Just like bullshit.
Yeah. I think we were having a real conversation, like kind of going back and forth.
We weren't like we weren't thinking of ideas for the podcast. We were just having a conversation, and we're like, this could be a podcast.
Because it is it's like a passionate thing. It's like, these are our favorites of, pretty much all of them. And like, I could say that I've said it a bunch. And like, obviously we're sitting next to, looking at this mask, movie replica mask. What movie is that from?
That's the original.
No big deal.
So it's molded off of like, it's
William Shatner's head.
It's molded off of like the original Kirk mask. Yeah.
Wow. How many masks do you got?
Right now I have 5. I'm about to buy a 6th.
Okay. So it's credible that he's a big Halloween fan. When does the idea of a sequel come to play? And like, I guess it's like, how does the timeline of all that start to play out with how many total movies are there?
13 total.
So if they have 13 of these, Scream has 6.
Yep.
How does that sort of play out with all the ones that they start making? And like, how do they interweave? Because not all the storylines align, right?
Right. I think eventually Scream will have 13, movies as well. I think that these
do you think that they will never stop it?
No, I don't think they will. Because it's all money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's making money, they're going to keep making it. There's
TV shows and everything. Yeah. Beat it to death.
So there will be 13 Scream movies at some point. There will probably be 15 Scream movies. There's going to be 20 Halloween movies eventually, even though there's only 13 now. It's just how it's going to be. And the same with all the other horror franchises.
Yeah.
Nightmare, Friday the 13th, Chucky. I mean, they're all just going to keep remaking them, rebooting them and everything. But it's funny because the Halloween 2 came out in 1981, so 3 years later. John Carpenter didn't want to do it. It was a studio. It was a money decision. It was, a holy shit. Halloween is making so much money. We need to make another one.
Yeah.
And there's some decisions that were made in Halloween 2 that even John Carpenter himself doesn't agree with, like the sister tie-in, But from there, it just kind of spirals out of control, and you have multiple timelines. Because
that's what happened in the second one. They tied in her being the sister.
Yeah, that didn't happen till the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said it spiraled out of control. The third one, is that a different storyline?
So they killed off Michael Myers at the end of the second one.
Yeah, for the first time.
And for the first time.
Well, I mean, who knows? The first one, it looked like he got killed, but
could be.
Who knows?
Depends on the timeline, I guess.
It depends on the timeline.
But yeah, so the third one was John Carpenter wanted to get away from, Michael Myers. He was dead, but he had the idea that we should do an anthology series. Still based around Halloween, but it's just going to be, what other fucked up shit is happening on Halloween night. So that's where you have Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, 1982. So huge disappointment when it came out.
That's the next year?
Yes.
1 year after?
1 year after, called Halloween 3. Everybody's expecting Michael Myers.
Yeah.
He's not in it. Everybody hates it. I think now, 40 years later or whatever, it's kind of got that cult following. Everybody loves it. A lot of people say it's their favorite of all of them. It has that cult following.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's good. I really like it. But at the time,
yeah,
everybody's expecting Michael Myers because it's called Halloween. Like if it came out, if it was just called Season of the Witch,
yeah, it would be different.
No
People
issue.
wouldn't have any.
But it was called
idea.
Halloween 3.
Yeah.
Even if it was maybe just called Halloween Season of the Witch, but it was called Halloween 3.
Yeah, people were like, I thought we killed him. How did he come back?
Yep.
Okay, so the third one happens and it was bad. And how long after does the fourth one happen?
So then the fourth one is 6 years later. So Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, 1988. And that's where they kind of get back to formula because the negative reception around Halloween 3.
I feel like 6 years is a long time though to go in between.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal?
It was a big deal.
Was it good?
So I like it. So let's talk about the timelines real quick. Because you have what they call the Thorn timeline, the Curse of Thorn. Okay. So that would be Halloween 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
What is Thorn? So
that's the druid curse that's on Michael Myers. Okay. And that's where the that timeline gets a little supernatural.
Yeah.
That the reason why he's doing this killing is because there's a druid curse on him and his family, and it's a whole bloodline, and that's the Thorn timeline. But those are some of my favorite ones to watch.
1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
Yep. And then you have, jumping forward a little more, so you have then the H2O timeline. Now the H2O timeline forgets 4, 5, and 6. So that goes 1, 2, and then it jumps to H2O 20 years later.
Yeah.
So H2O is just supposed to be a direct sequel to 2.
That's number 7? That's the seventh
that's the
movie?
seventh one.
Okay.
And then you have Resurrection. That's part of that timeline. So you have Halloween 1, 2, H2O, and Resurrection.
Yeah.
Resurrection, worst of all of them.
Wait, so why do you think that they just like cut off, was it not doing good to the point where they were like, oh, we just got to kind of try something different?
Yeah, I think it was. So it's interesting that you brought that up because Scream happened in between. Mm-hmm. Scream came out in 96.
Oh, yeah. When did H2O come out?
98.
Okay.
So.
And when did the one before, when did number 6 come out?
So 6 came out in 95.
Okay.
And then the first Scream came out in 96.
Yeah.
And then Halloween H2O came out in 98.
Okay.
So H2O is like the Scream version of it's interesting. It comes full circle because you have Halloween. Scream is essentially paying homage to Halloween.
Yeah.
And then Scream comes out and the writers for Halloween H2O are like, we should copy that.
Yeah.
And it just comes full circle. So Halloween H2O is really kind of like the more like updated, kind of like intentionally campy, but also like, it's just like
up to the times, updated to the times.
Yeah.
They had cameras in there, TV and that
like
makes sense.
A modern slasher.
Yeah, more modern version of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. So that one came out in between that. So 98 was H2O. And then what was the next one?
Resurrection, 2002.
Okay. And then 4 years after that. That's decent.
Yeah.
It's a decent jump. Okay. And then what's after Resurrection?
So Resurrection was just kind of the end. I think Resurrection is like probably the worst received one overall out of any of the Halloween movies. And they just kind of, I think at that point they realized they needed a full...
What happened in that one?
So that was the Busta Rhymes one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're doing like a webcam show
in
Michael Myers' house. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking of, H2O was with Josh Hartnett.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it was just so bad. And I think the franchise had just been going downhill for a while in terms of like how they were being received. So at that point, the next movie didn't come out for 5 years. And that was the Rob Zombie remake in 2007.
Yeah.
So they just restarted. They're like, which would be the second time they've done that because H2O was a restart. And then Resurrection, H2O not too well received. Resurrection, definitely not well received. Everybody hated it. So like, let's restart again, but remake the first one. So that was the Rob Zombie remake.
That's very interesting.
2007. And then...
Was that one well received? I remember loving it.
Yeah, yes and no. It's definitely like the fan base is divided on it.
Yeah, because the original is like, you're never going to beat the original, but It's like, come on now. I remember loving it though, but the second Rob Zombie movie, Halloween...
Halloween 2.
Halloween 2.
2 years later, 2009.
A little rough.
Yeah.
That one was a little rough.
I just watched it last night. I haven't seen it. I wanted to watch it again because I'm not as well versed in that one.
Yeah.
Like I've seen all these movies multiple times except that. I haven't seen that one since it came out.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to watch it again. It doesn't get better. It doesn't hold up. I was like really hoping it was going to be better.
Yeah, so you were going to see something different.
Yeah, no.
Now what's interesting is so Scream was happening. The second one was 97. So it's in the intermix of all this. Like, we're all coming out at the same time. Now, the later Halloween movies were not as well received as the Scream movies. The Scream movies were hits from the beginning, from what I gather. I can't remember the third one. I was trying to, read a little bit if that one was as well received because the third one came out in 2000. So it was like, you said Rob Zombie came out in 2002 or 2007. A Resurrection came out in
that was 2002.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like we were right in that sweet spot of like the early 2000s, like horror movies that was like they all kind of felt the same in some way.
They all used technology.
Yeah, like but it's like they all had that like same like visual look, like House of Wax, you know, all that shit. Like those are the types of movies that I think of. The new Texas Chainsaw Massacre that was updated, Freddy, you know, all these movies were kind of like, you know, striking while the iron was hot.
Yep.
And reverting back to like all this. But the Scream movie, so like, you know, we'll finish it off with the Halloween movies. Okay, so you had the second Rob Zombie.
Yep.
And then after that,
after that is almost a 10-year gap before they just, I shouldn't say reboot, but basically they requel.
Yeah.
You know, because the next one after that is Halloween 2018. So same name, just Halloween 2018, 40 years later.
And does not follow the Rob Zombies.
That one does not follow any other Halloween except the first one. So there's no sister tie-in because that wasn't, you know, that doesn't happen until Halloween 2.
Yeah.
This one is just supposed to be a direct sequel to the original 40 years later.
Yeah.
So that's Halloween 2018.
Why the fuck do you think they do all this to make it as confusing as they do? Like, why do you, just to like, you know, revert on things that they didn't do well?
I think because they don't want to be tied to ideas that were set up previously. Maybe they don't want it to be tied to the Thorn Druid curse, you know, and they don't want it to be tied to like he's her sister. So they have to. So
to the 2018 one, what was the, you know, it wasn't the Druid curse?
No, the 2018 one was just, he was caught that night. You know, he got up and he walked away. Like you see at the end of the original Halloween.
Yeah.
For a second he's there, and then the next second he's gone.
2018 is the one with Danny Trejo?
No. He was in Rob Zombies.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 2018 was just like, it starts with the podcasters.
Yeah, okay.
And he's been locked up for 40 years. He was caught that night 40 years ago, and he's just been in prison for 40 years.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. And then after that one?
Yeah, so then you got to get into the whole COVID situation because the original plan for this timeline, which this timeline is the Blumhouse timeline, as people call it. So you go from the original to the new Blumhouse trilogy.
Which is the 2018.
Halloween Kills and then Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
So there was a plan for all three of these movies. They were all supposed to take place on the same night. They're supposed to come out 1 year after the next, 2018, 2019, 2020. It was just supposed to be one story where each film picked up immediately as the previous one ended, just over the course of like 1 or 2 days, basically. Didn't happen because that came out in 2018, and then COVID happened, which delayed some of the filming for Kills, and then they went back to the drawing board. So they were like, okay, well, we can't finish filming, so maybe we should think about changing some of these ideas. So I think Halloween Kills is probably the weakest one of the new trilogy, probably just because of the plan they originally had in place got all fucked up.
Yeah.
And yeah, that ended up coming out in 2021 to theaters and streaming same day. And then Halloween Ends to round it out 2022.
Yeah. That was that's the most recent.
Yep.
Wow. And that one, I mean, what was that reviewed?
So that one is, here's my opinion on it. I love Halloween Ends. A lot of people don't like it, and I can see why they don't like it, because it introduces a whole new character, and Michael Myers is just kind of in the back the whole time.
What character?
Corey Cunningham. So he is kind of like the nerd who's being picked on and meets Michael Myers through a series of events where he's getting bullied, basically, and he comes into contact with Michael Myers. There's a little bit of, Michael Myers decides not to kill him.
I don't know if I've seen this one.
You should see it.
I feel like I thought I did, but this doesn't sound familiar.
The story is basically he is learning from Michael Myers how to be a killer, and he is the main killer. It's not Michael Myers. Michael Myers is there, but he's just in the back. And then it all comes full circle at the end where Michael Myers, gets most of his strength back. And yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
But it's doesn't have a good. It's scores. If you're going by like Rotten Tomato scores, I think it's somewhere around like 57% or something.
Yeah.
And the fan base is very divided on it.
Yeah.
You either it's a you love it or you hate it.
Yeah, you just love the idea of it being
right. And people hate it because it's like 45 years or whatever of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers is barely in it. I think people wanted the final film to be more about just those two.
But you said it's final. Like you don't think they're gonna make more?
I mean, final in the sense that this is definitely the end of like the Laurie Strode saga. Jamie Lee Curtis isn't going to come back.
Okay.
You know, they'll probably bring Michael Myers back, but once again, it's just going to be another.
Yeah. How are they
start
gonna
fresh? Another
rope
reboot.
you in?
Yep.
Okay, and this is one of the reasons that, you know, we can move right into mine. Okay. And this is one of the reasons that I feel like Scream is, you know, the elite series and, you know, just the better one because, you know, there's not all this riffraff and this hoopla of this, like, you know, back and forth bullshit and like trying to keep up and, you know, and I get it because Halloween is like the originator of it. It's like, you know, it was old back then. Like, you know, they're figuring things out. If you're the originator of it, it's like you're trying to figure shit out along the way. And it's like, you know, you don't want to be tied to old ideas if you're like doing these updated things. And I understand that. And that's fair. And I could give that to Halloween and its creators and everyone involved. But Scream is just more realistic. That is like the basis of why I feel like it's the best because it's the most realistic and the most probable to happen of any of the big name slashers. You know, you're not really going to have Jason grabbing your sleeping bag, whacking you off a tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I swear to God, I hope Freddy Krueger doesn't see me in my dreams because that's the most terrifying of all. But, I mean, Scream is like, that's the one. These crazy kids in high school, you know, getting fucking whacked out on, you know, horror movies and Mountain Dews and pizzas and everything like that and just like killing people. That's realistic. It happens all the time. And for it to like, you know, it pays its homage to Halloween, obviously, with the whole like, you know, they talk about it. They're watching it in there. It's like, you know, but it's that whole thing of like, you know, it equates back to like, you know, back in the day, Rodney Mullen was like a great skateboarder, right?
Yeah.
The shit that he was doing back in the day was considered to be like the tippy top of like skating performance. But now there's like 11-year-olds that are like getting buck wild because like things are just being updated. So they took the old thing, they used it and they updated it and they applied their thing to it to make it better. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from, but there was already, think about it like this, there were already 6 Halloween movies out before the first Scream.
Okay.
Now, what do you think Scream is going to be like 6 movies from now? Because there will be 6 more Scream movies. So what do you think Scream is going to be like 6 movies from now? Do you think it's still going to be... Do you think it's still going to be grounded in reality? Do you think that, I mean, we don't know.
I don't know.
What if someone comes along and they pitch an idea to the studio and they say, hey, you know, it'd be cool if Ghostface was, you know, supernatural, like he couldn't die. And because it was tied to a druid curse and the studio's like, I love it. Let's try it.
I get it, but it's like, you know, okay, let's be fair about it. There's 6 out now and they went from 96 to 2023. Okay. So that's 27 years. Okay. What is the time period between the first 6 of those movies? Like,
so the first 6 movies were from like
15 years.
It is
73 to
95.
Yeah. So you got, you know,
so it's
18
like,
years. It's 18 years.
Yeah.
You're just trying to type in calculator like, oh, what is it? So 18 years. Okay. So similar time frame.
Yeah.
Okay. Very similar time frame. But if you look at the first 6 of Halloween,
it's a similar time frame in the sense of the span in which the movies have come out. But it's a different time frame in when they've come out because you have the bulk of the Halloween movies, the first 6 coming out in the 80s, and the Scream movies coming out in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So
what do you? But what does that even mean?
So what I mean is that what's scary in the 80s is not as scary in the 2000s.
Yeah,
it's like you know, like.
But that's not even what I'm talking about. That's not even what I'm getting at. I mean, finish your thought.
My thought is that ideas that were probably willing to be tried in the 80s, like maybe there should be like a curse, and that's why he's killing, is there's like a druid curse. No, people aren't going to try that in 2020. You know
That's
what
fair.
I mean? Like in
That's
1980, that was probably a wild idea. In like 1985 or whatever, they were probably like, "Wait, a curse? Like
I never thought of it like
cursed?"
that. I've never thought of it like that. And that's fair because the 80s was buck wild. You had a lot of wild shit happening back then. So that's a good point. And like, I feel like that's fair. But if you look at the quality of them and like and as I was like trying to prepare for like this whole conversation, I kept like, you know, the thought in my mind that these were like created in completely different times.
Yeah.
So I like, you know, I give Halloween grace in that way. But the first 6 movies, it's like the storyline, it's like they had their shit together. You know what I mean? The storyline follows through. It follows through well enough to where, you know, it goes, you know, the trajectory of Scream is on the up in the second movie, a little bit shaky on the third. Then like the fourth one, I would argue to say would be on the up.
Yeah.
And then the fifth one and the sixth one is continue to be on the up. It's like, it wasn't, I mean, okay. So how do I want to rephrase it? It wasn't bad. You know, they weren't like terribly received, I would say, right?
Right. It's a new generation. I think they're going to be better received by, this is my opinion, but I think like the Scream movies are going to be better received by new fans than old fans.
Why do you think that?
Because I think that and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but I think that all horror movies now, including Scream, have to cater to a more desensitized audience, in the sense that someone chasing someone around with a knife isn't as scary as it was 40 years ago. You know, that's like why at first I hated when that trailer came out for the new Scream movie and he had a shotgun.
Yeah.
In a bodega, was like blowing people away with a shotgun. At first I was like, oh, this is fucking lame.
Yeah.
But I love that sequence. Like when I saw the movie, I love that sequence. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is like, that's what's going to be scary. You know,
like an updated version.
They have to kind of like move with the times. That's why they have to just kind of
That's a good point.
Keep increasing the level of gore, the level of violence, the level of, you know, scariness. And
that's a good point.
You can't make the original Halloween today because your general audience member is probably going to be bored by it.
Yeah, but it's like, look at like what's the movie what the hell is the movie that there wasn't even any jump scares. It was just like the one visual of the dude behind his back.
What are you talking about? Insidious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the whole movie it kind of left your mind up to, you know, being spooky. And that's kind of like what Michael Myers was. It's like, you know, Scream, I'm not like scared. Like, I don't think of Scream like, you know, how it cuts to the movies. You see him behind a tree, like running by with like, you know, the funny music. It's like Halloween is scary in that way, or Michael Myers rather is scary in that way, where it's like, no matter what, he's always like a shadow behind you. He's always like there,
right.
You know, no matter how fast you're running. And that's like another negative about it. You know, the dude, you know, they don't use physics in Halloween. You know, Scream, it's realistic. Got to go back to the realism.
Right, let's stop there for a second.
Go ahead.
Let's compare the realism aspect.
I would love to.
Because I think if we just compare the first movie in each franchise,
I
think the first Halloween is realistic.
I mean, what happened in the end? I mean, the guy got shot how many times? 6?
6 times.
6. I mean, 6 times, and then he was just like, and just like picked up and went away.
I mean,
okay. Be fair about it though. Billy Salt, you know, in the first Scream, and Stu, you know, that was like a more realistic type of thing, you know, being around, like there had to be 2 killers because, like, you know, that's the only way he could always been there. It's like, it was like more menacing in that way. It's like Halloween did not abide by like the rules of realism and physics, and like, you know, how the fuck is, I've never once seen Michael Myers running after a car. You know, the Scream guy is like flailing, chasing after you. You know, Ghostface is like, he's a hustler. You know, that's really what it is. And that was another reason that it's like scary to me, because it's like, there's some sort of like, you know, whether people want to believe in like ghosts or anything like that, there's people's mindsets are we like, oh, that's a horror movie, that's not real. You know, Scream is like a realistic type of thing that happens, I feel.
Yeah, so is Halloween. Like,
but
there are people out there that just kill for no reason.
Yeah, but there's not people that could like, you know, if I'm actively running and you're actively walking and there's no change in that, you're never going to catch up with me.
Yeah, but you've never been in that situation to where you're actively running from a threat. So you don't know if you know what I mean, in that moment when your adrenaline's pumping because someone is actively trying to kill you and you're trying to get away, that's when you fumble.
No, if you right now started at this door and I started at this door and I started, whether it be jogging or running, Michael Myers never once picked up to a slight jog. My man never broke a sweat, never had a slight jog. He was walking, and I'll even give you a brisk walk. You ain't getting me, no matter what. His cadence never changed. And I get in the movie, you keep it like that because it's more menacing. No matter what, he's just walking behind you, just coming after you. But that's like one thing that pissed me off about it.
You can't run for forever. You're going to get tired. He could walk for forever. He's not going to get tired.
Yeah, but even if I walk and I take a 1 hour siesta, you know, the dude ain't catching up. You know, I mean, I feel like you have to concede to that. That there's some blurred line of realism and physics there that Michael Myers gets to abide by.
I think not with the original Halloween, because the original Halloween, pretty much all the kills happen in a house.
And that's fair. Okay, I'll give you that. But
and even like when Laurie is like running from him, she just goes into another house. You know what I mean?
And
like she
fair.
corners herself. She's making stupid decisions. Everybody's making a stupid decision.
Yeah, maybe I rescind my whole argument, because it's not necessarily just like people smart enough to run around in a city block until the cops came.
Yeah, I mean, like in the first movie, all the kills that happen in the first movie don't involve really any chasing. You know, when he kills Bob, he's literally hiding in a closet.
Yeah.
Bob opens the closet, he gets stabbed. You know, he
kills the girl
in the car. He's hiding behind the seat in the car, waits for her to get in, kills her. There's really no chase.
Yeah.
Except at the very end when he chases Laurie across the street, but she just goes into another house,
That's a good point.
Putting herself in a corner.
That's a good point. And I guess that they did use a good time frame, because she would have enough time to get up there and get around, and that's a good point. Okay, it's a fair argument.
Yeah.
Now, okay, devil's advocate here. Guy got shot 6 times. What is it? You know, how does it happen? He's been burned alive. He's been hit with cars.
Here's the thing about that.
She chopped his head off.
That gets into the whole different timeline thing. But if we're talking about just the original, don't you think that is
you can't just put it in just the original, though?
Yeah, but I'm just speaking of the original right now. Okay. Don't you think that's a better way to, if the idea was we're only going to make this one movie, we don't know how it's going to do, the coolest way to end it is on that, like,
that's a good point.
Is he alive? Is he dead?
Yeah.
Leave it up to the audience to decide. This is a small independent film that, you know, a bunch of kids are making together. We don't know it. They didn't know there was going to be 12 other movies back in 1978, 1977 when they were making this, you know? So it's just like,
that's fair.
I think it's a cooler ending. I'm not arguing one way or the other. I just think if it was a standalone film by itself,
it draws you in more.
The cooler ending is like,
makes you wanting more.
Alive? Is he dead? I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, whereas Scream, it kind of leaves you with the questions answered. You know, Stu and Billy are dead.
Yeah, but Billy is, but in the same kind of like vein of that, at the end of the first Scream, everybody thinks Billy's dead for a minute.
Well, for a minute.
And then,
he pops up.
He pops up again. So it's that same kind of like, is he alive? Is he dead?
Well, and this is why, you know, like I said, or like Courtney said, you know, pick the top 3 things that we like about our own movies. That's like one of the things that I really liked about Scream, is like that it kind of like worked in, you know, it kind of like made a mockery of slashers, and like it kind of worked in, the rules of things. Like I like that. And I also like the, I'll put this under one bullet point, but I like the updated, just the generation and the time frame that it was set in. The 90s was dope. There was a lot of things that like, resonated with me, like the scene of them in the movie store, like all that stuff is also works into it being my favorite. But I don't know, the ending of it was, that's interesting now that you say that. It's more menacing to see like he got capped with 6 bullets from a 357 and then just is gone, and like there's no questions, and people back then didn't know if there was going to be a second one. Right. And I know that people didn't know if there was going to be a second Scream, but like, I feel like it was more assumed rather than, it's more normal now because they already did a couple Halloweens. Right. So, but I like the idea that, the questions were answered, but then, I wish that I remember what it was like back whenever I was 6 after I saw it and was thinking like, oh, is there going to be another one? I wish I had more of that, like, mind frame behind it. But the second one after that, a year later, Scream 2 did a hell of a job. So in comparison to the first and the second Halloween, because the second Halloween came out 2 years later, right?
Yep.
So 73 and 75?
78 and 81.
Or yeah, same thing. So 3 years later. So the second one compared to the second of Scream. Okay. I mean, what do you think about, I feel like the Scream, like the storyline did great. It was.
I love any movie that picks up. Yeah. As soon as the previous one ended, I love that about Halloween 2, because Halloween 2 Halloween 2 starts with Loomis running out of the house, looking at the spot on the ground where Michael just was. Yeah. I love that about it. I love that it is like the same.
How did they film that? Did they film that like consecutive? Like
no.
Oh, okay. I was curious about that.
Yeah, like Jamie Lee Curtis wears a wig throughout all Halloween too. Like there's a lot of like little things you'll pick up on. You can tell it's like a couple years later watching it, like certain things that are like a little different. But
the storyline though.
But the storyline it's very basic because the whole thing pretty much takes place in the hospital. Yeah. Laurie goes to the hospital. She's being treated for, the wounds she got in the first one, and then Michael's basically stalking he's trying to get to the hospital, and then the rest of the movie pretty much takes place in the hospital. Yeah. Very basic.
Yeah. And I guess it's like different to even compare, the first and second of Halloween compared to the first and second of Scream, because Scream uses a whole different, angle of it all. It's like you don't know who the killer is.
The thing with Scream is every Scream movie has the same, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but every Scream movie uses the same premise, which is the copycat killer. Yeah. Every Scream movie, every Scream sequel is the copycat killer.
Yeah. That's the second bullet point under things that I like more about my movie is that I love the opening scenes. Every movie of the Scream series has these like incredible opening scenes that are like, the monumental like intro to Stab, and you're like, is this real? Is it not? And I think that they do a good job with that. I like that that's like a trend that they kept following along. Yeah. And the second one was great. Like the second one was almost better than the first one almost. Omar Epps and then Jada Pinkett Smith. Come on now. What more can you want? But the story of it all, I think that they did great. I thought that it was like a perfect sequel to it to try to, it's hard to beat the first one in my eyes, but it's like the second one, I think they did a damn good job. Yeah. Now you continue along to like the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. The stars start to drop off. Right. People start to get killed off. It follows along the same storyline. And I feel like that is like what's something that I revert back to. It being realistic, it follows along the same storyline. It makes it easier to like follow along with. And they are pretty consistent. It goes from Scream 2 in 97, Scream 3 in 2000, Scream 4 in 2011, Scream 5 in 2021. I think.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I was using ChatGPT for some of this, And it's weird because it did not recognize Scream 5 or Scream 6. Like, I was like, give me a synopsis of all of these. And it was like up to my updates of 2021.
Yeah.
It only goes up to Scream 4. And I was like,
2022.
Interesting. Yeah. And I don't know. I just, up until the end, up until the one that they just put out, I just think was, more consistent. It was better.
I mean, it's going to, when they're still copying Halloween's formula 40 years later, it's going to be consistent, I guess, because, and yeah, I did mean that as a little bit of a dig, because let's compare the new Scream movies with the new Halloween franchise. So in, 2018 Halloween, little things here and there. Let's just use the same title, Halloween. Then what does Scream do 4 years later? Let's just use the same title, Scream.
Yeah.
And then they do the whole, we're bringing back the original mask, but it's going to be super weathered.
Yeah.
Scream just did that with Scream 6. We're bringing back the original mask. We're just going to make it super weathered. Mm-hmm. There's definitely a lot of like, I don't think they're doing it like maliciously, like, fuck Halloween. We're ripping them off. I think it's definitely a lot of it is like, paying homage to like the franchise and how the franchise is still around, but there is a lot of biting going on where it's like,
it's
just little things.
They're taking the little things and they're enhancing them and making them better. No, but I get what you're saying. But I also think that, if you think of, it's also hard to, kind of critique both of these because the killers of all of them are different. And it's like, it could rely on different storylines. Like you have more grounds to explore as far as like storylines. And like Michael Myers, you have to like kind of get crafty and be like, this is a druid. This is a fucking, they're sisters and it's weird. But the Scream one is like cool.
That's where I think Halloween wins. I think I like how the story is consistent with Michael Myers for the most part through all the Halloween movies. It's just plain and simple. It's just, Druid curse aside, it's just a guy who is just hell-bent on killing. I don't necessarily like all of the reveals in all the Scream movies. Like, oh, it's, so-and-so's mother, or like, oh, it's so-and-so's brother's sister because once upon a time you cheated on their math test.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think like some of the killer reveals are a little weak in the Scream movies.
Oh my God.
Especially Scream 6. It was very convoluted. There was like the Scream 6 reveal that it was like the dad and like the sister.
Spoiler alert.
Like,
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But, But what I think is good about it is that, you have the same story of Michael Myers, but it just like goes back to like my main point is just like there's no laws, there's no structure really. It's like they get crazy if they want to.
Yeah.
Whereas in Scream, it's like
but Scream gets crazy too.
It gets crazy, but to the point of like family trees crazy, but like other than that, it's not people that are like, I'll be fair. Yeah, the sixth one, I already know what you're talking about. These people went haywire.
Wait, let's
these
talk about
people.
Chad. That was his name, right? The jock kid. His name was Chad.
Yeah.
He got stabbed about 18 times in Scream 5.
Probably more than that.
And then in Scream 6, he gets like double. He gets double stabbed by two ghost faces at the same time, like 20 more times.
Now,
he's fine. He's fine at the end.
And that's something that I will admit that Halloween does better. Halloween, okay, so those were my 30 things. Halloween was the originator. Halloween's music, that's iconic. It's eerie, it's iconic, and it is realistic in that way where, people die as they should, and that's realistic. But Scream this is the first like little delve into them being like, all right, come on now, but I don't know. They updated it to the point where, like you said, they used the shotgun in this new one. And it's like, there's just like new, Halloween kind of sticks to the same thing. It's not like in the town. It's not like in the city. It's not like Jason Goes to New York or whatever.
Right.
But, I like that. But I also think that it's a detriment to the stories of Halloween because it's the same old shit. People were in a little neighborhood, but it also like, give the characters more credit than they are. It's like people are fucking idiots in the Halloween movies still. It's like they're dumb. Like, oh, this shit's happening around. And that just goes to back to the whole thing that there's not really any rules. No matter what, he's there. It's like a string tied to your fucking leg. You know, Michael Myers is like that. I feel like that, you know, they need to give the character some sort of credit to where they could get away a little bit more, do something a little bit more. In Scream, the characters are actively trying to, like, you know, they're kind of logically getting away. They do some bullshit stuff for sure, but it's like they use a little bit more logistic. It seems more a little bit really realistic, doesn't it?
It's like, I think what you're getting at is kind of like saying zombie in a movie about zombies.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
That self-awareness that like we know what's going on kind of.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Scream is like, yeah, that's fair. Do they ever now? That's a good point. So they're already aware of like slashers, everything like that.
Right.
And they make a mockery of it. So I guess, yeah, apples and oranges with how to compare those. That's one thing I like more about mine, though. That's what makes it better.
The thing I like about, so here's what I'll say. Well, let me ask you, what's your favorite Scream movie? The original?
I think in my order, if I had to rank the Scream ones, it would be 2 and 6 almost, probably
Okay.
2 more. 1, 2, 6, 4 and 5 tied, and I wouldn't even rank the third one.
Okay,
No, the
that's
third
fair.
one's not terrible, but it would definitely be last.
Okay. Yeah, I would probably be somewhere in the same.
Yeah.
With the Scream rankings.
What would you rank your Halloweens?
I have a list of all 13 and like the order I would rank them.
Okay.
1 and 2 would be the original and the 2018. That's my, first is the original, second 2018, third Halloween 2, 4 Halloween Ends, 5 Halloween 3, 6 Halloween Kills, and then 7, 8, and 9 I have Halloween 4, 5, 6. H2O in 10th place. Then Rob Zombie's Halloween and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 in 10th or 11th and 12th. And then rounding out the list in 13th place, I have Halloween Resurrection starring Busta Rhymes.
And it's even funnier to speak to it why Scream is better, because Halloween Resurrection is definitely not as good as the third Scream.
No, it's not. Halloween Resurrection is
A terrible movie.
I'll watch it just because I want to watch the movies.
Yeah.
But Halloween Resurrection is not good. If I was going to skip one, if I was only had enough time to watch, I would not
12 of them?
12 instead of 13. I would not watch Resurrection.
Well,
I'd rather watch the Rob Zombie remakes than Resurrection.
Now let me ask you this. This is what I was thinking of, and I'm curious. What is one thing you dislike about Michael Myers and the Halloween thing? What is there something that you dislike about it actively that you've always kind of disliked about it?
I'd have to think about it, but the thing I think I dislike is how many timelines there are.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest dislike, is that if you really break it down, there's 4 or 5 different timelines. And it's not that it's confusing. I'm familiar enough with the franchise that when I watch them, I know which ones to pick to watch and what. But I don't like that I couldn't, if I wanted to sit down and watch all the movies in order, they're not going to make sense.
Yeah.
It's not going to make sense to watch H2O right after 6.
Yeah.
Because everything that happened in 4, 5, and 6 hasn't happened for the H2O timeline. So that's my biggest gripe, is how many times now they've restarted the franchise.
Yeah.
Because I don't think any other horror franchise has restarted that many times. Friday the 13th, I think, has only done it once. In 2009, they rebooted it.
Yeah. Which was a good one.
It was good.
Yeah, I like
Scream.
that one.
Scream hasn't done it. I'm sure Scream might. 10 years, 15 years down the road, they might try. I mean, who knows? And what else? Nightmare on Elm Street, they did a reboot too. But all these horror franchises, popular horror franchises, have tried let's start fresh. They've done it maybe once. Halloween has now done it they've tried different ideas 3 or 4 times now.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part, is that not every movie goes together.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I have any for Scream. It's just good. After I asked you that, I was trying to think what I disliked most about the Scream franchise, and I really don't think that there's a lot that I dislike about it because it doesn't seem that realistic. The thing that I dislike most is in the newest ones, whenever they brought back Billy. And they have him like
a ghost in the background.
It's like, come on,
I didn't like that.
you're starting to flirt with like, what is she going to get possessed next? What's he gonna? Is she going to talk to a Ouija board and he's going to come back and fucking possess one of the dolls or some shit?
See, I mean, it's starting to Druid curse.
I get
Druid curse. It's going down that line,
but it's not there yet. And after 6 of them, I think that you have to admit the consistency is good and the overall quality of it is pretty good. Now, this is where something that you can't really critique in Halloween, but in Scream you can, is like the people who ended up being the killers. First one, obviously, Sydney's boyfriend and his best friend Stu, potentially gay lover. I read a conspiracy theory about it on a subreddit on Reddit, and it's pretty interesting and convincing. They might have been, but who knows? It was pretty funny because I was like, wonder what this could be. And it was someone's like, dissertation of like 4 pages of just like wild shit. And they end up providing details, but it's like stuff you would have to, look up. Like, I don't know. It probably was fan fiction, but, okay. So those 2 were first. They got killed off, Sydney. And then the second one was Mickey and Billy's mother. Yep. I liked how that was. And like, I never realized this was something that I wanted to bring up is they were saying that Mickey was already a serial killer in the second movie.
I remember hearing that somewhere at some point.
Well, I think that they were saying that Billy's mom, whenever she was like telling her what was going on, Roseanne's sister, she was saying that she found Billy on a serial killer like website or like forum or sub chat or whatever. And like the whole time it came out in 97. I've never realized this at all. And I like read this on Reddit and I was like, holy fuck, that's pretty crazy. It would be cool to do like a prequel type of movie with him if he killed anyone else, because he might have been my favorite killer out of everyone besides the original. Like, he was just a fucking nut.
Yeah.
Timothy Oliphant, like, you can't beat him. Third one, you had Roman, who was Sydney's, half brother or some shit.
Yeah.
And like, that was by far the worst storyline.
Yeah.
That was like they were grasping for straws. Right. You had Courtney Cox's hair was almost as bad as the storyline.
Third one is where it ends in like a mansion or something, right? It's
and like, and they're on like the movie set. Like, that was a cool part of it all. Like, that was a cool like environment that the movie was filmed in. Like, it was like the original set built on a movie set because they were making the Stab movie after the original one. And, I thought that was cool, but it was just like, ultimately the story fell apart and it was kind of just like, they were grasping for straws, and then the fourth one kind of comes back to, I remember seeing, we saw the fourth one.
Yep. Pre-screening.
Pre-screening.
Like months, like probably like at least 6 months in advance because it wasn't finished.
Yeah. And I remember thinking whenever we went to see this, we were like, how good could this be? Because that was, 4 years, or that was 11 years after it. 11 years after. The fourth one came out in 2011. So, I remember thinking like, how good could this be? This is going to be fucked up. They're going to ruin it, whatever. And I remember us both going out of there thinking like, this was actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
And ended up being Sydney's cousin who wanted to be, famous and, loved. And one of her like weird boyfriend type lover type people that she ended up ultimately killing. Probably my least favorite killer out of all of them is Emma Roberts. I just hate her as a person, I feel. Maybe not even as a person, but every role she plays is just like a fucking terrible human being. Fifth one was the younger boyfriend or the younger girlfriend of how did that guy even play into it? He was just like a fan, right?
I think they met on like Reddit or something.
It was a dating app he met on it, but like he was just a fan of he was just like a fan of like, Ghostface. I think that's what we find out in the sixth one is that I can't even remember his name, but it was Billy's daughter, the original killer, Billy and Stu. It was his daughter. They were following her, and she ended up meeting this guy, and that's how he ended up being a killer with another dude or another girl that he was cheating on her with. And then the sixth one ended up being that person's family. And it rounded it out to be a great movie. Whenever you went to go see it, I said, what do you think about it? And you said, I was disappointed.
Yep.
And whenever I left, I think whenever you told me that you were disappointed, I think it set the bar so low that my expectations were blown through the roof. Because whenever I left, I was just like, I loved it. What did you dislike about it?
I mean, there were a lot of things I disliked. I think that everybody in the Scream movies has too much plot armor in the sense that, like, okay, this is a main character. They're not going to die. Like the girl that got stabbed in the train, knife twisted around in her stomach.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, she was jumping around like she was fine.
Yeah.
The jock kid, he was already stabbed 20 times in the last one. He got stabbed 20 more times in this one.
60 total.
Fine at the end.
Yeah.
That's the thing I don't like is like how much plot armor the main characters have. And then the other thing I don't like about Scream 5 and 6 specifically is they're bringing back the original characters for no reason almost. It's like they brought, Sidney wasn't in 6. Dewey, they brought him back just to kill him off.
Yeah. Tragic.
And it's like Courtney Cox, her character was just like wasted. And mostly in 5. It's like they brought the original cast back, but they were only in the very end of 5.
Yeah, for like a money grab.
Right. It was definitely just like a cash grab at the very end of 5. And then 6, they just felt wasted. I just didn't like that. I didn't like
wasted. Courtney Cox's like whole scene was one of the best ones
in the apartment where she's like shooting him. Yeah. It was good, but like once again, plot armor. She doesn't die.
Yeah,
and it's like.
But it's like, I get it. And like, I feel like that is like the assumed, that's what I said. The 5 and 6 one, that's what I dislike the most is like, I didn't touch on that. I touched on Billy coming back as like an apparition, but like, we talked on like how, people are getting stabbed 50 times and no one's dying.
Yeah.
To be fair, the plot, I mean, like the twist at the end it was good because you're like, oh, those dudes were definitely dead. That dude got stabbed 40 times. He's dead. And then he's fine. You're like, oh, okay. So, I mean, like, I get why you dislike it, but it also was...
And the fact that the dad just somehow collected every single piece of evidence from every...
That was dumb.
Scream murder from... he got every piece of evidence.
When you're working in the FBI, you got some pull. Yeah. And that dude was just weird in general, but... I don't know. I thought it was all right.
But I'm not saying this in the sense that I've walked out of every single Halloween movie. Like, that was amazing. Like, I love Halloween 2018, but I went and saw Halloween Kills on opening night, and I had the same kind of, when that ended, I had the same, like, that was disappointing. That same,
well, that's what you even said. You even said that was disappointing. And I think that also speaks to why mine is better because I don't get disappointed by them. No, I'm just kidding. I think that this was good though. Like I think that, the kind of the back and forth of why we appreciate our franchises and why we think that they are superior to the other. I think it's good, but ultimately there's no right answer. And, you like yours. Obviously yours is great. I like mine. Mine's great. It's for different reasons and we appreciate them for different reasons. But, I'm just happy that they're, without yours, mine would not be.
Yeah.
And without mine, I'm sure yours might not continue the way that it did.
Yeah. There's definitely a period where, Halloween was kind of corrected, market corrected by Scream coming out.
Yeah.
Where they kind of had to step back and be like, okay, now we have this to compete with. So
let's say this. What do you think is the more iconic costume?
You're only asking that because you're putting me into a position where I have to say Ghostface.
Why do I have to say that though?
Because it's the more attainable costume.
Is it though?
Yeah, because you go to the store you go to Spirit Halloween to pick up a Michael Myers mask. It's $60-$70. You get a Ghostface mask for like $20.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. They have cheap Halloween masks too. Why do you think that there's more? Why do you think that is? Maybe just the time that it came out.
Maybe.
Like it was like part of the movie. Like people were like, there was costumes. People were part of it. Scream was just like, Halloween. He just had this mask randomly. It's a good point. It's a good argument on my end, huh?
Yeah, like Ghostface is like the more popular costume for sure.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
No, I don't know. Were you him for Halloween before?
Yeah,
I think everyone was, right?
I had the blood one where you had like the little pump that ran down the sleeve, and you could pump the blood through the mask.
That's big money now. So even though all the 6 Scream movies, come out, and like there's not really as much data to pull from as there is with the Halloween movies, that's my argument, and I'm sticking to it. Like how would you fare after this conversation that we, how would you gauge it? You think we did a fair job at gauging both of our reasons why we agree or why we enjoy each series?
Yeah, I don't think I really talked a lot about why I enjoy Scream. And I don't think you really talked a lot about why you enjoy Halloween.
That's fair.
I think we just talked about our respective franchises that we brought to the table, which is fine. I know you enjoy Halloween, and I enjoy Scream.
Yeah. What do you enjoy about it, though?
What I like about Scream is I like the swings and the risks it takes. Like you were kind of saying, Halloween plays it a little safer. It's always in Haddonfield. It's always in the same little town. There's I don't want Michael Myers going to space. I don't want
Jason X.
I don't want Jason X. I don't want that. But like, could it happen in a big city like Scream 6 in New York? Like, absolutely.
That felt cool. It felt different. Like seeing him in like, I don't mean to cut off, but like that's something that we need to touch on.
Yeah. The whole subway sequence with like
it felt different and it felt like fresh and something that was like updated, that felt like like the thing that Scream kind of does,
right?
But back to what you were saying about like there potentially being a chance, you don't want it to be too crazy, like going into space,
right?
But it does feel good that it's like in Haddonfield. It's like what's going to happen. Like in Halloween in Haddonfield, bad shit happens,
right? And I like that. I like that Halloween stays in the same place. That is Halloween, but I also like that Scream is not afraid to try something new, like giving Ghostface a shotgun in a bodega in New York City. It fits the franchise, and I think it works. When I saw that, like I said, when I saw that first trailer, I was very weary. I was like, really? A fucking shotgun in a corner store? But like, that
felt good.
That whole scene worked. It worked really well.
It worked, and I feel like that was like what it was. It's like you don't know if that's like a perfect example of like not being open minded. Like before I saw it, I'd be like, "Fuck that," got to be a buck knife.
Yeah,
but they did good with what it was, and I think that that's one of the things that I like about Halloween. Like we talked about it being like more of like not following the rules of like real life, but I like that part of Halloween. I like that there's that like scary, like you really don't know what could happen because there's no rules. This guy can't die. Like that's what's so terrifying about it. Where part of the reason I like Scream is that like I feel like I kind of have a fighting chance.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's what's like cool about it. But Halloween, you ultimately you think you have a fighting chance, but he's always there.
Here's the thing that I much prefer my slasher villain to be grounded in some kind of reality. And I think that Michael Myers is, depending on the timeline, I think Michael Myers is grounded in reality. Same as like any of the Ghostface killers, right? They're all just normal people.
Yeah.
But they all have their reasons. Depending on the timeline, Michael Myers is grounded in reality too. Now you can stretch it here or there for either franchise. But like what I don't like, and I love the Friday the 13th movies, but I don't necessarily like this idea of like Jason was chained and was in the bottom of a lake for a year and he's back. That's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Michael Myers getting shot 6 times and then he disappears, like he might be alive.
Yeah.
I think that's just enough of a stretch.
Look at 50 Cent. He got shot 9 times.
Yeah,
You know, he's alive.
And speaking specifically of like the new Halloween timeline, like the new Blumhouse trilogy, which just connects to the original Halloween, that's my favorite. Like if I was going to watch a Halloween timeline, if I had to just pick one, I'm going to pick that. I'm going to pick the new trilogy.
Why though? Like what about it do you like?
I think the best part about it is that it's ground in reality.
Oh yeah.
There's no druid curse. There's no, sister tie-in. It's just
He's nuts.
a random guy, and he got caught, and that's why he survived. He got shot 6 times, but he was caught by the police. So obviously they administered medical attention to him, and he's been locked up in prison for 40 years.
That's a good point.
And that's what I like. Like if I was only going to watch 2 Halloween movies, I think a great double feature be the original and Halloween 2018, because Halloween 2018 does kind of have the same kind of ending as Halloween 1978, where the end of the original Halloween, Loomis looks over the balcony, Michael's there, then he's not there.
Yeah.
The end of Halloween 2018, they trap him in the basement, they set the house on fire.
Yeah.
He's there staring up at them. A couple seconds later, he's gone. It has that same kind of ambiguous ending. It's
like how did it happen?
Is he alive? Is he dead? I think you could, if you're someone who's like, I'm not invested enough that I'm going to watch 13 movies, you could just watch Halloween 78 and Halloween 2018, just those 2. And I think that that's like the perfect double feature.
Yeah. That's good. I like that. That would be interesting to watch back to back.
Yeah.
Because it's, I don't think I've ever done that. I don't know the last time I probably haven't watched 2018 until it came out.
I mean, I love it. I think it is, in my opinion, the best sequel. There's a lot of people that H2O is their favorite sequel. Halloween 2
H2O?
Yeah.
They think that's the, wait, so H2O follows what?
It follows 2. So, I mean, it's the third one.
Yeah.
If you're following that timeline, but
it was good though. That one was good.
Good for its time.
Yeah.
And they're all relevant.
Yeah.
But I think
Josh Hartnett?
I think 2018 is one of my it's probably my second favorite after the original.
That's fair. And I think that that's good. I like that explanation. Now that you explained it in that way, like 1 to 2018, they're not being like it being grounded in reality. Like I like that more, because ultimately my biggest argument about Halloween is just like the unrealistic nature of him and his, ambiance and how he's ultimately always there.
Right.
And my biggest, like, one of the pillars of Scream is like it being real, like it being like something that seems that it could happen wherever anyone is.
Right. And the thing with Scream is like, so I think Halloween is probably going to go this direction.
Yeah.
Which is the direction Scream has already been going from the get-go. And
come up on the mic.
The copycat killer.
Yeah. That's a good point.
There's not like Ghostface isn't a single person. You know what I mean? Like there's like Michael Myers is one person.
Yeah.
Ghostface is anybody who puts on the costume. It's a different person in each movie, for a different reason.
Yeah.
I think Halloween is probably going to go that route.
What would they call him? That's like, I
don't know.
That's Michael Myers. That's Michael Myers.
I don't know. But I think that's the thing that kind of separates them is, yes, it's this iconic villain, but they're 2 different villains, really. I mean, because one is a costume that's donned by everybody. The other one is a person.
Yeah. Well, if they keep going, so do they have any ideas of making more Halloweens?
Yeah, they're shopping the franchise around right now to different studios for TV rights and movie rights.
Now, do you think that would be the same storyline?
So from what I read online, that if they do a TV show, they're thinking about going back to Halloween 3 and doing kind of the anthology where it would be like...
that's
just
cool.
Not Michael Myers related, but just like different fucked up things happening on Halloween night.
Yeah.
Which I think that could work for a TV show.
For sure.
I think the movie should stick to Michael Myers, but where they go from here, if they try and do a direct sequel to Ends, or if they try and reboot it again, I mean, I don't know.
Do you ever do the math on how old he would be?
So, what? I think he was supposed to be like
in 78
or 63 or something like that.
like right now,
Like in the Blumhouse trilogy.
63 years old.
Something like that.
That boy's hip is breaking. You know what I mean? Like, but I get it. And like, I think that like you were saying, we didn't talk enough about like the Halloween things. Like I could talk to him blue in the face about like what Halloween did good. I like the idea of, it being up to people's imagination to fill in all the spooky stuff. And me like starting to get into like books and stuff is really like exercising that muscle. And Halloween did that in the beginning. It was always, it didn't really like show a lot. Like it wasn't like super gory or anything. It was just like, it was just enough. It did enough to like make your mind like create weird shit, like just the creepy eyes, everything like that. Whereas like Scream, it doesn't really like leave you up to that. Like, you see what you get, and that's, I don't know. I guess that's one of the downfalls of it all.
Yeah. It's just like, I feel like it's very easy to compare the two, but it's also just
difficult
to compare them.
It's apples and oranges,
right?
And
the biggest thing is, I think what we're just saying, like with the killer, because Scream, it's a different killer every movie, but with Halloween, it's just been the same guy for 40 whatever years,
and it's however crafty the person making the movie could utilize those already told storylines,
right?
Whereas like Scream, you could do whatever. I recently read that they're talking about doing a Scream that's in the holidays.
I saw that.
That would be fucking sick.
Yeah,
I would love it. And that's what I like about that freedom too.
That's another thing, and that's why Scream has that creative freedom, is because the copycat killer reason, because it could be anyone, anywhere, anytime. With Halloween being just Michael Myers, that's why it's always kind of like the same place, the same time, because it is just that one person. So Scream does have that creative.
Well, he's going to have to age out, right? Like if they continue this storyline.
Well, I mean,
he's going to be fucking 65.
Spoiler alert, because you said you haven't seen it. He's dead.
I mean, is he though?
Oh, he's dead. At the end of Halloween Ends, they literally, those like metal shredders that's just a bunch of like knobs that go like this, and they like shred like giant metal. They put his body in one of that. You literally see it suck his body in and turn it into like blood soup. He's dead.
So if he comes out, if he comes back,
well, that's why I'm saying, I think they're going to go that route of like
doing different things.
The idea behind Halloween has always been this could be anybody. Evil is everywhere. Like I think they're going to take that to the next level now and just kind of
more
like
literal sense.
It's going to be a new person now, because they already did that with Ends. They experimented with Ends, and they had Corey, and Corey was kind of like the copycat
How
killer.
old was this person in that movie?
Corey, I think he was, I don't even remember. He was probably like around 20.
Oh, okay.
But like,
who played him? Anyone big?
No.
Okay.
But every horror franchise has done the copycat killer. Even Friday the 13th has done it. But like, I think they're going to kind of maybe move that route now, as it's not Michael Myers. It could be anybody in the mask. They kind of set that up with Halloween Ends, and I think that's where they're kind of going to go from here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, apples and oranges, they're both good. I appreciate both of them.
They're both good.
I definitely probably haven't seen the last one. I don't know. Maybe
you love it or you hate it. People hate it because they feel like it wasn't a good end.
That wasn't the hospital one, right?
No, that was Kills.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, people hate Ends because they don't think it's a good end to like the Laurie Strode, Michael Myers saga, because it's mostly about Corey. They're mostly, trying to set up someone else.
I got to watch it, I think.
People love it because they tried something new. I'm on the side of I love it. I definitely don't hate it. I was torn when I first watched it, but
is there any that you don't like at all?
Yeah. I mean, Resurrection.
That's it.
I don't like the Rob Zombie remakes either.
What? Like the first one, I feel like it was so good.
I just think it takes away the whole like first 45 minutes is unnecessary with the backstory.
With the kid?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was creepy. I liked it.
I just don't like that. I just don't think I'm a Rob Zombie fan, because I don't like how everybody in every one of his movies is white trash.
Yeah,
like,
he's demented.
Yeah, like why does every character in all his movies has to be white trash? I don't get it. Like even like down to like the cops. Like even the good guys are still white trash. Like
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, well, look at all of his movies.
Yeah.
I mean, was he white trash, Rob Zombie?
maybe
He might have been.
probably.
But I don't know. It always reminds me of a very Kid Rock type of vibe.
Yeah.
You know, like that's whenever I see like, you know, just even the way he films, I could hear Kid Rock playing in my brain. But I don't know. I mean, it's all good. It's all good for sure. How else do you think? So you know, what's the best way to put a cherry on top of all this conversation? Like, you know,
All right, so I already said my Halloween double feature would be the original in 2018. What's your Scream double feature? If you would someone just wanted to watch two of them.
I mean, I feel like it would have to be. I think 1 and 2 do a good job, but like, I feel like it's hard to answer that question because there's not like a timeline break,
right?
You know, you can't just watch 1 and 6 or 1 and 5 and like know really what's going on.
Yeah, it's definitely tougher.
So I don't know. I think the most surprising break was like between 3 and 4. You know, obviously that was like a 10-year difference almost, but it's like, 11-year difference. So I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. It would have to be 1 and 2 though, because they do such a good job at being like the premiere or like the first one of like the whole series. Like the first one is great. And then the second one does a good job. It's not like it left it. I feel like of all the sequels, you know, that came right after, like the year after, like that did probably the best job of being like, you know, a sequel to one of these like main slashers that were out of like Friday the 13th, Jason, anything like that. It felt like the most consistent, the most like, you know, it didn't let me down like that. Yeah. And I still watch it and I still love it.
Yeah.
Still good. But then like the one that they made 11 years later, like it was great. I thought 4 was great compared to, you know, they always seem to, and maybe that's maybe that's just me being a super fan. Do you think that works into you?
No, I agree with what you're saying. I think the longer gaps between the sequels is needed because I think when you start to try and rush these out every like 2 years, that's when you start to get into that like panicked mode of like, we need
do whatever to get it out.
Druid curse, you know, it's, you know, but when you take that extra time, like even between 3 and 4, like 4 is way better than Scream 4 is way better than Scream 3.
Yeah. And whereas like 1, 2, and 3, you could feel by the third one, it's just like,
you can tell it's getting tired.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Halloween too. You can tell even getting into like 4, 5, and 6 that it's starting to go, they're reaching. It's starting to go downhill. So when you take that time and Scream did it different than Halloween because Halloween took a little bit of time, but they just said, let's scrap it. Let's reboot it.
Yeah.
Scream took the time to kind of reevaluate, but they kept the roots. You know, they just did another direct sequel.
And it's cool that there was 11 years beyond that last one, beyond 4 too.
Right.
You know, like you said, it's interesting that you just brought that up. Like the more closely together they are, the more like panicked they are to like put out some garbage.
Right.
But yeah, if you're sitting back, like, you know, distance makes the heart grow fonder. So people are like ready for it.
Yeah.
Like whenever 5 was coming out and it looked like somewhat decent, you're like, oh man, it's crazy. Now let me ask you this. In the, you know, I feel like Halloween was created. It's not. I feel like Halloween was created in 78. So like they didn't have cell phone shit like that. What do you think about like the technology end of things? Because like, you know, you think of like Halloween and like the updating of everything. Scream kind of does a good job at answering like the updating, you know, being up with the times. But like Halloween, it's like people have like armed security systems. People have Ring doorbells. People have like, you know, shotguns and like, you know, all these things like metal fucking things from like the Purge that you could close. You know, how do you think that they combat things like that? But I guess we're not even to that point. He's already dead and like it's going to have to move.
Yeah. I just think that they're, you know, so technology. So thinking back to like Halloween 2018, Allison, the daughter, they're at the school dance. She has her cell phone and her boyfriend like throws her cell phone in like the cheese dip or whatever. And that was just kind of like definitely a cheesy, cheap way to be like,
movies. You don't have your phone.
We need to make sure she's not going to have her cell phone for the next scene.
Yeah.
Because she's going to come on contact with Michael in the next scene. She can't have a cell phone. Let's just throw in this quick thing real quick where like she gets
throw it in your cheese.
She gets into a fight with her boyfriend and he tosses it in the cheese dip. Like, so yeah, there is kind of that, like technology is always creeping in.
Yeah.
But there are some things that are a little different. You compare like Halloween 2018 to the original.
Yeah.
In the sense that police response is like quicker. The police are smarter. They kind of, there is like, you know, differences.
I know.
Where I feel like one of the tropes with slasher movies is like police are dumb.
Yeah.
You definitely see in these newer movies where like there is some advancement in.
That's what I'm going to be scared of with Scream, because like, you know, I feel like that type of killer is, you know, more under the constraints of like, you know, like we kind of like flirt around the idea of the realistic nature that Michael Myers kind of drifts away from, and like Scream, how kind of like leans into that. And I feel like I hope that one thing that I hope that they don't do is like, you know, make it like you know, like an online movie, like an online, like, you know, just someone messaging like on a webcam.
Halloween Resurrection.
Yeah.
Yeah, like webcam.
I get that, but it was like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's that when you lean that much into the technology, like making a whole movie like Resurrection based around like a webcam show, I think that's just a product of its time.
100%.
That was
cash grab.
Yeah, it was like a cash grab. Like what's in right now, like webcams, like technology, like it's a product of its time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think you have to, in slasher movies, you have to use technology carefully.
I hope that would be, you know, understood to like not lean that far into it. And I don't know, from what Scream's doing, like I'm happy with what they're doing. I'm curious to see how it goes, because the last one was received well. I'm curious to see if they get like, you know, Sydney back and everything. But I also, I think that they do a good job at, you know, I'm happy with how they kind of progressed. We talked about the negative about how people weren't dying, but I'm glad they killed off Dewey. It needed to be done. It was arguably, you know, I might have even teared up whenever it happened. But it was like, out of all the movies, it was just like an awesome way to do it. You know, it just felt good. So like, you know, with the newer movies and stuff like that are coming out, you know, one of the like the topics that we were going to do before we were going to do Scream and Halloween was like the newer movies that were coming out. Do you think that they're ever going to be able to make a slasher movie, like a new slasher that's going to like, you know, be set in time, like one of these two that we spoke about today?
No, I think that, I don't want to say no, but like, I'm trying to think of like modern, you know, slashers. And I feel like,
what's the closest thing that's the most new?
The things that pop off, you know, come to the top of my head are like Happy Death Day.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of like slasher mixed with Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Which was good, and it had a sequel.
Yeah, I liked it.
But is there going to be a Happy Death Day 3? I think they've talked about it. So, I mean, that...
But that doesn't feel the same.
And that kind of goes along the same lines as Scream as well, with like the, you know, could be anybody. But no, I know what you mean. It doesn't feel the same. But it doesn't feel the same to us. Think about someone who is 10, 11, 12 years old that watches Happy Death Day. Is that going to be their Michael Myers that they grow up with?
That's interesting.
It might just not feel the same to us because of our age. You know, I don't think there's going to be anybody new for us. I think that for us, we have those. You know, I think there will be another Friday the 13th. There will be more Halloweens. There will be more Scream movies. There will be more Nightmare, more Chucky. But
when is the last time they made? Have they made a recent Jason movie?
No, dude, they've been talking about it for a while. But
that's what I thought.
2009 was the last. So they're working on a TV show right now, Camp Crystal Lake TV show.
That'll be cool.
But no, the last movie was 2009. So,
and then Freddy was 2009, or no, Freddy was after that. That was like 2013, maybe.
Yeah, something around.
Because it was like the guy who played Rorschach, right?
In Watchmen. Yep.
Huh. And then what was the other? Texas Chainsaw. They made the one with Jessica Alba. That had to be like 2008, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was.
And then did they make another one after that?
there was just one that came out like a year or two ago. It was like straight to Netflix. It was just called like Texas Chainsaw. I think it was trash.
Yes, I didn't even hear about it. I don't think I heard about it. I don't know. Out of all of them though, even I don't know if it's not necessarily me just not growing up with watching them, because I watched like some of the Friday the 13th. I watched some of the Nightmare on Elm Streets. None of them ever like resonated with me like Halloween or Scream. I don't know why. Like, do you even like?
Well, I think a lot of that probably has to do with, we talked about this being a positive.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about it being a negative.
What?
The length of time between sequels. It's going to fall off.
Well, when
there hasn't been a Friday, the biggest gap I think between Halloween movies was what? I'm trying to think. The biggest length of time between Halloween movies, I think, was like 9 years.
Well, when did these even come out? Like, when did the first Friday the 13th come out, and when did the first Nightmare on Elm Street come out? It had to be the late 80s.
So the first Friday the 13th was 1980.
Oh, wow. Okay. And like, I don't know anything about it if it was like well received, but I feel like it would be, like what was that introduction of a new type of, I guess they didn't know that was going to be like a reoccurring person.
Right.
But was that like well received at all?
I mean, Friday the 13th was just a cash grab. I mean, like there's interviews of like producers of the movie literally saying like, quote unquote, Halloween, that's making so much money, let's copy that.
The formula of that.
Yeah. Like there's like video. It's not just like something that's like, oh, did they copy Halloween? Like, no, there's actual interviews of them saying, let's copy Halloween.
That's cool then. Well, when did Nightmare on Elm Street? When was that?
1984.
Okay, so that was a little bit later. So like, I mean, was that, because that, I don't know. I feel like Jason and Michael Myers are kind of like very similar.
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger, I feel like, was that new 80s, like how you were talking about in the 80s, they're just like doing some different type of shit.
Right.
And that's what I feel like was like, more interesting to me. That's why I feel like Jason kind of like fell to the wayside for me.
Yeah, there's definitely a more lean into the supernatural when you get to like mid to late 80s with like vampire movies becoming more popular, werewolf movies becoming more popular.
Yeah, poltergeist, stuff like that.
Halloween is leaning into like the curse and like Druid curse and like, so yeah, there is definitely a switch there. But like we kind of talked about, Scream came around and kind of like corrected all those franchises by being like, take it back to basics.
Made it better.
And it did. It made the other franchises all kind of take a step back and be like,
reevaluate.
Look at what they did.
It's like, after all this data of all these different situations is out there, what did this one do to make everything that we did better?
Yeah.
And hey, I think that answered the whole argument of what's better or worse. No, I'm just kidding. When did Texas Chainsaw come out?
That was actually before Halloween. That was 74.
Wow.
So that was a slasher, before Halloween was. And even if you take it back as far as 1960 and Psycho's technically a slasher.
Yeah. Was that the first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I've ever watched the original
Psycho.
I've seen like the clips of it, but I don't know if I've ever watched
seen,
it.
Like the shower clip.
Yeah, I watched the remake with Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Creep. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know. I like, what's your thoughts on like, the remaking of like everything? Is there ever a point where you're like, just let this be done? Like stop it?
Yes and no. As a fan, no, I don't want them to stop. I don't want them to, I'm sure you don't want them to stop making Scream movies.
If they start sucking.
I mean, yeah, but then that answers your other question of like, should it be rebooted? Should they try again?
Yeah.
As a fan, I'm very happy that the 2018 Halloween took it back to just being a direct sequel to the original. I'm very happy that they ignored everything else that came before it. I love Halloween 2018. I love the whole Blumhouse trilogy as a whole.
Yeah.
So I really like what they did there, and I think it has a good ending. I think it could be it. But as someone who loves Michael Myers, loves Halloween, that's my favorite Halloween, scary movie franchise. I do want them to make more. I'd love to see like an anthology TV show. I'd love to see like I'd like to see Michael Myers come back.
Yeah.
It's just, it's
80-year-old.
It's tough to answer. You know, I think,
80-year-old decrepit walking around.
I think that's kind of why they have to maybe take the Scream approach and like it's just someone else in the mask now.
Very interesting. I think that this was good.
Yeah.
I think that this was a good way to round it off. I think that this was a good job that we did here.
Yeah.
You know? Do you think that there's anything that we are missing or leaving out or not touching on that we should before we let everyone go?
I don't think so.
I don't think so
I
either.
think it's just there's too much here to kind of deep dive. You
Yeah.
know, we got like 20 movies we're talking about, but
Yeah.
so I think, you know, it's good.
It's good. All right. Let us know if you want to hear more. Let us know if you want more episodes with deeper, more focused conversations. You know, that would be something fun to do. And if people want to listen to it, you know, I'd be willing to do it. But I'm excited about it. Anything else that you want to talk? What do you got planned for Halloween? No big plans?
No big plans. I got a costume, but it's a secret.
Yeah.
Secret.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd like to plan something to do something. Go to more haunted. I mean, we're doing a bunch of haunted houses, so
Yeah.
we're doing the due diligence of it. We're going to go to Kennywood and, you know, all these other places. You
Yeah.
going to go to any haunted houses?
I don't have anything planned right now. I want to. I just don't have anything planned.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough when you start a new job because then you're like, you know, everything's kind of on pause for a little while you get situated.
That's fair. Your house is decorated?
House has been decorated since like September 1st. Yep.
Yeah. You're going to carve a pumpkin?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but
You know, Antoinette grew up never carving pumpkins.
that's weird.
Yeah, her mom never let her carve a pumpkin. She didn't want there to be a mess.
That's weird.
Ain't that wild?
Yeah.
Very wild to think about that. Maybe we'll go get some pumpkins. That's a good idea.
Yep.
Something else. What else? What's your favorite Halloween candy? I feel like I ask you this every time, but I never remember.
Yeah, and it's probably going to stay the same because I can't remember if I said Kit Kat or Twix the last time, but it's still one of those. Actually, so there's a new, Courtney makes fun of me, but we actually had a whole conversation because there's Twix out right now, ghoulish
Green. I
Yeah.
just saw it.
I got one the one day and it was like so fucking good. Like the best Twix I ever had. And I was like, I wonder if there's just something different in like with the green that makes it like, it just tasted so much better.
I felt it tasted the same.
She was like, made me feel a little stupid because she's like, it's probably just fresh because they made it for the season. She's like, the other Twix are probably just sitting on the shelf for 6 months.
Wow.
But these ones are fresh because they just made them for the Halloween season. That's probably why it tastes better.
Wow. That's interesting.
And I was like, I guess that makes sense.
Do you think it tasted different than another one?
Now that she put it in that perspective, I'm like, yeah, it probably was just the freshness.
Yeah, because like I don't eat a lot of Twix, but I had one the other day because I saw it. I was like, oh, green one, that's cool. So
Yeah.
I tried that, but I don't know. I feel like it tasted the same. Do you get a lot of trick or treaters?
No.
Yeah.
No, it sucks because like the first year we bought our house, we moved in, we were ready. We bought like 4 or 5 bags of candy because we live in like a one way in, one way out type of community. Ton of houses. We were like, there's no way we're not going to get, 100 trick or treaters. I think we had 2. Like we
Do you
bought,
think
like,
people just don't do it?
we're also at the very top of the hill, so maybe people just don't walk up as far as we are, but also our community doesn't have any street lights. So maybe people just don't want to come up because it's dark in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, maybe it's just our community specifically.
We get one. We don't get one kid that comes
Yeah.
here. I see one kid that walks to the bus stop here, but it's interesting because like, growing up, that was such like a wild time. Like trick-or-treating was crazy, but now I feel like it's so weird because they're like, oh, we're going to do it the weekend from noon till 3.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not even fun at all. Like nothing about that is fun. It was fun, coming home, getting your shit on and like being out there in the dark, seeing people's jack-o'-lanterns and lights, like putting it in the daytime. It's
Yep.
like, come on. It's like talking to Santa with a different color beard. It just don't work.
It just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah. What do you think your favorite was? And what do you think your most impressive Halloween costume was that you've been?
I don't know. Let me think for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I dressed up as, Toni Collette's character in Hereditary, I actually forgot about that for a minute, but definitely notable because remember I posted a picture on Instagram
and the
like,
little girl reposted it, right?
The girl who played Charlie liked it. The A24 account liked it.
Yeah.
Ari Aster liked it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And like, yeah, I can't remember it, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely like cool, you know.
And it was unique because it wasn't like, you know, I'm sure not everyone is being a character from that movie.
Right. And it was like the year the movie came out too. So it was still like,
yeah, it was fresh.
Not everybody had seen it. And like everybody's, you know, half the people were like, what are you? And the other half kind of understood what it was. So,
what about as a kid?
You know, I definitely went as, you know, a Scream as Ghostface.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Did you go as Michael Myers as a kid?
No, not that I don't think so.
Ha. That's perfect. That's how we know who won. Yeah, that's good.
But yeah. Red Power Ranger too.
Red Power Ranger? You're saying that that's your favorite costume that you've been?
No, I'm just like thinking through like ones that I was as like a kid that are like memorable and definitely like Ghostface. And
I was Curly from the Goosebumps series. You know that skull with the mohawk?
Yeah.
I had that. I was Chucky. I was a pretty good Chucky. My brother made me a zombie one time. He always did like zombie makeup that was real good.
I think that like the other thing that like, you know, Scream and like the Ghostface like franchise, like they kind of like took Halloween, you know, kind of like the costumes to the next level. They had like the blood-filled knife, the blood-filled mask. Like they kind of like were like took their costumes to the next level too. Yeah,
that's interesting. I was reading that Scream was originally supposed to be called Scary Movie, and it was basically going to be, I mean, it's what it is, but it's interesting to think about that it was always like the idea that they were going to like, you know, call attention to these like, you know, rules that have been based off of all these slashers in there. But it's cool that they, you know, that they kind of expanded on that. And that's why like I feel like that it's really not fair to compare them because, you know, Scream gets more of they get more options and more motion than Halloween did, you know, coming up in the 70s and the 80s. You know, it just wasn't different.
Yeah.
But I still think it's better. Okay. All right. It's a good one. I think that's a great place to end it. Everyone else that's listening, very excited for Halloween. I hope you enjoyed this year's movie episode. Thank you for coming over and talking about the movies.
Anytime.
What are some of your favorites that just came out? Like, you see anything that like stuck in your mind that just came out? Talk to Me was my favorite.
Yeah, Talk to Me was really good. I feel like I'm behind on horror movies right now because I still want to see the new Saw.
Yeah.
I want to see the new Exorcist, even though the reviews are trash right now. It makes me very upset.
Yeah.
But
the previews looked real good.
But like
I loved Barbarian too.
Barbarian was good.
There's a lot of good horror movies coming out.
I'm excited for Maxine because X and Pearl, both very good. I'm excited to see how that trilogy rounds out because from what I saw online just yesterday, I think it's supposed to be a slasher. So
it'll be
we'll
good.
See.
I didn't see Pearl. I got to see that.
Yeah.
I saw X. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff coming out, but everyone else that's listening, you should patronize your local haunted establishment this weekend. There is a couple of good ones that I would like to recommend. Castle Blood in Monessen. Rick, who runs Castle Blood, has been on here a couple times, and every year around the holidays, I always try to get people made aware of this place, this hidden gem that's down there in Monessen. One of the best haunted houses in the city. It's my favorite, but I'd like to call attention to that. 100 Acres Manor, another great one. Kennywood, another great option. A lot of good spooky stuff to enjoy in the city right now. And, support the local people that are out here doing spooky things and giving you those options. Appreciate you listening as always. And I'll call you right back.